Dear YouTube viewers, I am Vansworth Mackenzie. This video I have also taken from my history book that is called Food and Sickness from Eating These Gentile European Manufactured Fast and Greasy Junk Food Every Day. The Gentile people of Japhet has imposed upon many of their captive people who were born and raised in what became known as the United States, and also in many other lands where our ancestors were taken as slaves and leave us behind. And we have become subject to their junk and greasy fast food and their ways of life that many of us have copied from them. That is not good. It is very sad to come to the knowledge of how these Gentile people of what became known as the United States have stripped the many Amite free slave people of today of their ancestral culture of food and have imposed on them their fast, greasy junk food as a way of life that many have copied and adopted themselves to these European American junk food to bring in wealth into their system. I would also like to point out to many of my Amite people of the United States that they should try to learn more about their ancestral culture of food from other Amite people from Jamaica and other islands of the Caribbean who mainly eat their ancestors' kind of food that is grown from the ground and from trees. Food that has to be cooked or roasted on the fire, rather than what I've seen many Amite people of the United States mostly eat. That, in my opinion, will only make many of them become big and fat from eating these fast food, junky and greasy food every day that was designed to make money by their Gentile European captors. Many American Amite people mainly eat the Gentile fast food that they were raised upon, that in many ways are no good for them, but will only make many of them become very big and fat. And these food that I have seen many Amite people of the United States mainly eat as their staple diet will only make them in the long run suffer from many health-related problems, such as high blood pressure, heart problems, and other health-related problems because of eating too much of this kind of fast, greasy, and salty food every day that in many ways are no good for them. But it was designed for the people that run these establishments to make fast buck while they will be suffering the consequences in the long run. The problem of eating too much of this Gentile European fast and greasy food every day, it consists of too much cheese, grease, butter, salt, sugar, processed manufactured food, fatty meat, and sodas. These Gentile commercial fast food is only geared to make money for many of their former ex-slave people who do not know any better, but many of whom embrace this kind of food that they were born and raised upon that will only destroy many of them in the long run. When I was growing up in Jamaica, people would eat bread and cheese or bun and cheese as a snack, along with their daily cooked meal that comes straight from the ground or from trees, as the way Yahweh made it to be, that has a lot of nourishment for the eater. From I left from Jamaica and went to live in London or Britain from 15-year-old, I have never seen people cook their food with cheese as I've seen with so many Amite people of the United States do, who cook their food with cheese every day. Whether it would be bacon and cheese, steak and cheese, ham and cheese, egg and cheese, turkey and cheese, macaroni and cheese, or spaghetti and cheese, It is all fatty and greasy food. Bacon is full of fat, cheese is full of fat, steak is full of fat, and eating fried egg every day with its grease will only make a person become big and fat that might lead to heart and other health-related problems. Many times here in the United States, I would go to the lunch truck that goes to the various job sites and buy a butter roll from the truck. When I open the roll, it is full of butter that one could scrape out the butter and lay brick with it. A person who would become very big and fat and sick from eating these butter rolls every day. During my time as a teenager or a young man growing up in London or Britain, I have never seen any British people cook their food with cheese, apart from the regular cheese roll or a cheese sandwich as a snack before eating their regular meal. The staple diet for many Gentile people of Europe is mostly consists of meat, sausage, bread, ham, egg, and plenty of cheese. Also white potato, from where French fry and chips that came from the British, and French fry that take its name from France. However, I have come to the knowledge and understanding from reading volume 9 of the encyclopedia, page 641, that white potato, where French fry and chips came from, originally came from the Inca people of Peru that was known to them as Solanum tuberosum. This food was later copied by the Spanish overlord of the Inca people, who had introduced the white potato into Europe during the 1500 AD because of a famine they had there in Europe that left many people in Europe starving to death. This adopted potato is also known as Irish potato, King Edward's potato, or the American white potato, and so on. Such things as rice and other food that many Gentile European people eat today as their staple diet did not come from Europe, and they did not know anything about this kind of food. But many of these food come from their captive and conquered people, which was a part of their cultured food that the Gentile people of Europe of today have copied and adopted themselves to eat rice and other food that they have learned from their captive people that were a part of their kind of food every day, mainly from the people of India and the Chinese people, who mainly eat rice as their staple diet. One should realize and understand that eating too much of this greasy food every day, especially living in cold climate like many parts of the United States, Canada, and Europe, where one doesn't get to sweat a lot like that of many people who are living in hot climate, it will only make a person become big and fat from eating all these greasy and fatty food that will store up in one's bodies. Many of the sickness and diseases that come from eating this kind of food, it is because the Gentile people of Europe do not leave things alone as the way Yahweh made things to be, but instead, because of their greed for wealth, they grow many of the vegetables with chemicals to make them grow much faster, so that they will be ready to ship to the local run Gentile European supermarket to make big buck from the selling of these things. They also inject many of the animals and poultry with chemical to make them grow much faster, to be shipped to the slaughterhouse in order to make big profit from the selling of these meats that in the long run will cause a lot of sickness. People need to realize that man is not Yahweh, who have given us his creation all kind of food, fruits and vegetables that grow naturally without any form of chemical that many of the Gentile people of Europe of today have used to grow food. And they have also introduced these kind of chemical product of growing food to other people. That is not good for the human body, but it's a means of making more profit for them. The funny thing about it, when a person becomes sick in the United States and go to the doctor or the hospital from eating this kind of food every day, right away it's all about making money for the doctor and the hospital. Not forgetting the pharmaceutical company who make big profit from the selling of their expensive drugs that the doctor gives to many people to lose the weight they put on from eating this kind of food, which most of the time do not work. Before Yahweh gave man meat to eat from cows, sheep, goats, and poultry, the first thing he gave man to eat were herbs of the field, that is now known today as vegetable. And this was before the flood of Noah. This statement about the herb of the field that Yahweh gave man to eat for his food can be found in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 29. And after the flood of Noah, Yahweh gave man meat to eat, and also vegetable of the field. This statement can also be found in Genesis chapter 9 and verse 3. The vegetable that Yahweh gave man to eat were free from all kinds of chemicals that many of the Gentile people of today use to grow food to make them grow much faster in order to make more money, to bring in more profit. Although the Gentile people of Europe has messed up everything from the way Yahweh made things to be, they are now telling their television viewers of the United States that they must eat more vegetable and less red meat. There is nothing wrong with the meat or the food that Yahweh gave us to eat. The only problem is this: they, the Gentile people of Europe, keep on messing around with everything and do not leave things alone as the way Yahweh made it to be. And this has caused many problems, to have all kind of health-related problem and sickness. They have also done this to the water supplies by using recycled sewage water in the tap that people drink every day, that is full up with chlorine and all sort of chemical to clean up the water so they could use it again to sell and to make more money. So again, they don't leave things alone as the way it was naturally given to us by Yahweh, but they keep on interfering with everything because they really think that they are Yahweh who makes all things. Many are my people who eat of the Gentile people food of the United States and their different kind of fast food has caused many of them to become very big and fat, with legs almost as big as elephant. The Gentile people of the United States tell their television viewers that the reason why many people of the United States are so big and fat is because they are obese or eat too much. The real problem is not because many of them eat too much, but is because of the kind of food that many Amite people of the United States eat, which has caused many of them to become big and fat and out of shape. There are many Amite people of Jamaica who eat 3 meals per day, along with snack and homemade drinks that are made from fruits and vegetables, along with a weed that comes from out of the sea that is known as sea moss. And they do not get big and fat like many Amite people of the United States do. Many of them just remain trim and lean, and it is not because they go to the gym to work out like many people of the United States do, but it is the kind of food that they eat. The reason for this is because many Amite people of Jamaica and in many other Caribbean islands where our ancestors was taken as slaves, mostly eat their ancestors' kind of food, which is grown from the ground or from trees, and also fishes. Also, living in warmer climate helps to spread out some of the excessive fat that may build up in one body. I have come to the knowledge that many Amite people of Jamaica have now adapted themselves to the Gentile European American fast food system that is now established in many of the islands of the Caribbean and also in the land of Ham itself. Many Amite people of Jamaica have no idea of the kind of food that they are adapting themselves to, which will only make many of them become very big and fat, that will eventually lead to sickness like that of many Amite people of the United States. Many of whom are suffering from high blood pressure, heart problem, and other health-related problem from eating this kind of Gentile fast, junk and greasy fast food every day. Many Amite people of the island of Jamaica need to realize that the mindset and philosophy of the Gentile people that have many of these fast food franchises in Jamaica and other Caribbean islands, and also in the land of Ham itself, are there to set up and to make money and to get richer from many people dying from eating too much of their fast and greasy junk food every day. Another reason for many of the Gentile fast food franchise in many of the Caribbean islands and in the land of Ham itself, apart from making money, it is because the Gentile people like to push off their cultural food by way of advertisement and their way of life on many of us Amite people who are there and who do not know any better. Unfortunately, many Amite people love to always want to run away from what they have and to adapt themselves to the ways and culture of the Gentile people that many of the time are no good for us. But it seemed to always fascinate many of them to want to run away from what they have rather than to accept what we have that Yahweh has given to us as a people to enjoy. The reason why many Amite people always want to run away from what they have, it is because many of them are suffering from slavery mentality, ignorance, stupidity, colonial mentality, and inferiority complex of not knowing who they are and where they're coming from. But many of whom always try to run away from themselves to be like that of the Gentile people of Europe, who many of them see as the master race of the human family that many of them want to be a part of, and to copy their ways of life that have great impact on many of their captive mind of today. Many of my people of Jamaica should be very thankful to Yahweh that many of us in the island were fortunate to hold on to many of our ancestors' culture, food, and some of their ways of life. Although I would not want to embrace all of my ancestors' culture, because many of them were idol worshippers and witchcraft workers that I would not want to be a part of, now that I have come to know better knowledge from the reading of the scripture of things Yahweh ate. I'm very glad and thankful for the good part of my ancestor culture that many people of the island of Jamaica still have. There are other islands where many of our ancestors was taken and their descendants were able to hold on to some of their cultural food and did not completely lose them to the Gentile people influence that they were exposed to, like that of many Amite people of the United States, who mostly eat the Gentile European people food and their culture food. While living in the United States, I have been to many mixed breed people restaurants that come from different former Spanish slave colonies of the Americas and the West Indies. The food that many of them eat and sell, they classify it to be Spanish food because they do not have any knowledge of the history of the food they are eating and selling and where it came from originally. Their problem is because they speak the Spanish language and they see themselves as a part of the people of the land of Tarshish that is now known as Spain and Portugal, because they have no historical knowledge of who they are and where they're coming from as a people. Many of them do not know that the food they are eating and selling and call as Spanish food came from the slaves who were taken to various parts of the Gentile New World of what is now known as the West Indies, South and Central America, and many other places in the New World. This so-called Spanish food of the West Indies and the Americas is also blended with some of the food from the Arawaks and other native of their New World. I am pretty sure that the Spanish people of Spain and their cultural food have nothing to do with the eating and cooking of yam that some of their former slave people from these places eat and call as yami, spelled Y-A-M-E. This Amite food also consists of green banana, plantain, that many tribes in the land of Ham used to eat, way before many of them were taken out as slaves, that was introduced into the so-called New World of the Gentile people of Europe. Also, yam, sweet potato, breadfruit, corn, and many other things that the people of Ham eat in Jamaica and other islands of the Caribbean were taken with our ancestors who were taken from the land of Ham as slaves for them to eat, which was a part of their customary food before many of them were taken out as slaves. Although the Gentile people of Europe have been teaching us, their many captive, that corn that the native call as maize come from the native of their New World, of the Americas, this teaching of theirs is totally a false statement and a lie that has no truth in it. By reason for making this kind of statement, it is because Genesis chapter 41 and verse 49 clearly explain that corn was grown in the land of Mizraim, now known as Egypt, for food. And this was way before what is now known as the Americas came about by way of the conquest of the Gentile people of Europe. This corn for food was also eaten among many of the Canaanite people thousands of years before what became known as the New World was captured by Columbus and America Vespucci for the Spanish, Portuguese, and other Gentile people who came from their Gentile land of Europe to this part of their captured world. This was also way before the Gentile people left from their Gentile land of Europe to come and take away many of the captured land of the New World from the Spanish as their colonies of possession. Many of my people who were taken from the land of Ham as slaves to the various colonies in what is now known as the West Indies, South and Central America, and North America, some of their slave masters did allow some of the food that the slave eat to be taken from their native land to be brought along with them to sustain them to do their work. According to volume 2 of the encyclopedia, page 491, David explained that breadfruit was first introduced into the New World by the suggestion of Captain James Cook to Captain William Billop, because it was a part of the slave staple diet from their homeland. It was Captain Cook, who was a Gentile European person, who saw breadfruit for the first time in his life in the island of the Pacific, and he recommended that it would be a good food for the Negro slave of the West Indies to eat. According to the encyclopedia, breadfruit was also grown in what is now called tropical Africa and was eaten by various natives who were there. This is the reason why in many of the islands of the Caribbean and some of the South American country, they grow plenty breadfruit that was brought over for the slave to eat as a part of their staple diet. This type of food was not known to many of the Arawaks Caribs, who were the native of what is now known as the West Indies, that became known as the Caribbean of today, and also in various parts of the South American countries, in comparison to many Amite people of the United States who mostly eat the Gentile European food that was introduced to them as their type of food. According to volume 1 of the encyclopedia, page 187, there it explained that Aki, which is also spelled as Ackee, was known as Biliga sapidea tree and was widely cultivated in what became known as West Africa. This food was brought to Jamaica and other islands of the West Indies for the slave to eat, along with yam, green banana, and so on, which were a part of the staple diet of the various tribes that were taken to the West Indies, which became a national dish for the island of Jamaica. This food is still grown in some part of the land of Am and eaten by many of the natives who are there, and it is now widely eaten in various parts of the Caribbean where our ancestors were taken as slaves. I must also point out that when I was living in London or Britain, when many of the British people saw yam that was sold in the various local marketplaces, that many people of the Caribbean would go there to buy their food to eat. There the British people had called this food wood roots because they did not know what it was. Now I came to the understanding that many of the British people are now buying and eating yam that they did call as wood root, and sweet potatoes that are eaten by many people of the Caribbean as a part of their staple diet. So in many ways, they have copied a lot of things from us Amite people without even acknowledging it to be so. The Gentile people of what is now known as the United States have been showing on their television and of their viewers how to make drink out of fruits. What many of these viewers do not know and realize that we, the Amite people of Jamaica, have been making drinks out of fruits way before these Gentile people came to the knowledge about these things that they now show on their television program, as if to say that they were the one who started the making of drinks out of fruits. Many of the time they would give the impression to their viewers that they had the knowledge of these things before, which they did not have any knowledge of these things before, because fruits and many vegetables that they now make as drink out of fruits do not grow in Europe, but mostly grown in tropical countries. It is due to the conquest of the world of people and their land. That is the reason why they, the Gentile people of Europe, have come to the knowledge about these things that they now show many times on their television, that they are telling people that they are the masters of the making of these things out of fruits and vegetables. It is also amazes me to see how much these Gentile people of today have control over the fruits and nuts that is grown in many of the tropical countries of the world that they did not know about before, while they were living in Europe. Again, because many of these things do not grow in Europe, but now they have control over everything that they sell in various supermarkets because of the various prophecies about the time of the Gentile reign and domination over the earth. And they have conquered many things that they become knowledgeable about from people land. Now they are teaching many people who came under their captivity about the eating and growing of these things, which they did not add any knowledge about these things before. But it is because of the prophecy of the scripture about the time of the Gentile reign or domination over the earth. That is why they are now in control of all things. In reality, although many British people who had fought against many of the ex-slave people who were coming into Britain as cheap laborers to do their dirty work that many of them did not want to do, and to pay taxes to the British system to build up their economy of Britain, yet it was a good thing that they did open up the doors to let some of us in, because they had learned a lot of things from many of us, their captive people who were living there among them. Although many Amite people had left from the Caribbean to go to Europe to live and work, it did help to corrupt many of their offspring who were born and raised in the various countries of Europe to adapt to European culture and their way of life that were foreign to their mothers and fathers who went to these places to live. There are still many of us Amite people who are living in Britain today that have helped to build up the economy of Britain, and also helped many of the British people to come to know about many different kind of food that they did not know of before the coming of many Amite people from the Caribbean. I also saw on the television that watermelon that is now grown in many parts of the Gentile people New World was taken from a part of the land of Ham that is now known as West Africa. This is the reason why there is a lot of watermelon grown in the United States that has brought a lot of wealth to the economy of the United States every watermelon season of the year. There are many Amite people of what became known as Ghana and what became known as Burkina Faso who eat the same kind of food like that of many Amite people of the island of Jamaica, such as yam, green banana, sweet potato, plantain, and so on. This is in contrast to many Amite people of the United States who have been the minority people living among such a large population of Gentile European people whom they have copied and adopted many of their way of life, their cultured food, and have lost many of their own ancestral cultured food to that of the European people food that they have adopted themselves to, their cultured food. If the Gentile people population in Jamaica was in the majority and we the Amite people were in the minority, we the Amite people of Jamaica would have been just like the Amite people of the United States, who mostly eat European food as their cultural food, because we would have adopted their cultural food, because in reality they are the rulers of the established societies. We too would have been just like we too would have lost our ancestral cultural food to that of the Gentile people food and ways of life and culture, as many Amite people of the United States have lost theirs. According to a short history of the West Indies, the Spanish got their knowledge and skills of growing oranges from the Moors of North Africa, who had ruled Spain at one time. The Carthaginian Phoenician people of Carthage had also ruled Spain at one time, and this was way before the Moors, the Romans, who came to power and destroyed the power of Carthage and also the power of Greece. The people of Spain and Portugal also got their knowledge of growing bananas, oranges, sugarcane from the Amite people of the Canary Islands, Madeira, that the Spanish and the Portuguese people had conquered, that became their subjects, who were a Berber tribe community of what is now known as North Africa. I also came to the knowledge from reading a book that is called A Short History of the West Indies. The earth mentioned that mango that is now grown in many parts of the West Indies, Island, Mexico, Central and South America was taken from India and also the land of Ham itself to be grown in different parts of the Spanish and Portuguese New World, as well as the Dutch and the Gentile people, colonial lands. So in reality, the Gentile people did not know anything about the growing of grapefruit, tangerine, banana, and many other fruits that became a part of the commercial industries of today, that has brought great wealth to many of the Gentile people of what became known as European people of their conquered world. Thank you, YouTube, for allowing me to bring out this knowledge that many people do not know of. And I hope that it may benefit many people from what I've read and written about. Thank you. Take care.